This is Jewel Fitzgerald. This is for another emission, Monday emissions from the heart. Sometimes it's hard for me to say that. Mondays emissions from the heart. Anyway, hopefully the sounds of cooking in the background and TV in the background will disturb you as we meet again for another week of talking about how God has worked or moved in my life. So last week we talked about being a mother. This week we're going to talk about a time, a period when I was during my motherhood, one of the activities that my husband and I were involved in. And let's, I want to call that period, let me get, I'm always having fun with the sharing of the screen here. Let me get that. Anyway, so this other time period is when we were involved with the Girl and Boy Scouting. So during that time, I want to call it the time that, at least for me in particular, I don't know so much about my hubby, that I was the fanatic. So both of us had been Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. We had two different experiences. My time as a Girl Scout, we just went and met at some lady's house a couple of blocks away from where I lived at. We met as kids. We worked through a manual, a little book about badges we were working on. But the only thing we did was we worked inside. We were just had milk and cookies, and I can't even barely remember selling cookies. But I don't know, I might not have been there long enough to get to the selling of the cookies because I was so bored. Because I wanted to get into Girl Scouts, we can go camping and do some outdoor stuff and whatever, whatever. But this particular troop, all they did was be in a meeting, Girl Scout having milk and cookies, playing games, making crafts, whatever. Me, I was like, I can do this at school. So I didn't stay very long. Husband, on the other hand, he had a great experience. He went camping, he went out, they did lots and lots of stuff. And so when it came time for our children to be in scouting, our son was the youngest, the first one, the oldest, then he wanted to have that same experience. So we took him to a Boy Scout, Cub Scout meeting, because that's when he first started as a Cub Scout, as a Tiger Cub. And it's so funny preparing for this, talking with my husband about this whole scouting experience, what he remembers and what I remember about how we got involved with this was two totally different things. So it was kind of funny to hear his side of the story and then hear my side of the story. I don't remember it being like that. No, I don't remember it being like that. What are you talking about? It went down this way. So it's kind of cool just having that little dialogue about the realities of how we both became leaders, because both of us were reluctant leaders, really. I was just planning on being a drop off parent like everybody else, drop the kid off and run and come back in an hour. So, but of course that didn't happen. So I took him first, and I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter, took him to a Cub Scout meeting, and they were putting them in these little dens by their age group or by the they'll just make it easier for you to say by their age group instead of going through this tiger, wolf cub, and all that other kind of stuff because they got different levels. But anyway, they have them in the dens divided by their age groups, and our son was going to be in the lowest one at that time is tiger cubs. Now it's a different one, but now tiger cubs because now they have another one. Things have changed since we went. Anyway, it's not like I'm rambling. I think I am. But anyway, so I went there, like I said, gonna fill out the paperwork, pay the money, and then say, okay, cool, I'll bring him back every week and do what y'all want to do with my son so he can become this great Cub Scout and then move into Boy Scouts because my husband was a Boy Scout and he was working at the time, so he couldn't go to the meeting. I went by myself and my son, 9 months pregnant with my daughter. And at any typical meeting like that, they need to have adults involved. So there was nobody that wanted to be the leader for the Tiger Cub group. So here I am, 9 months pregnant, ready to pop any minute, like in the next couple of weeks. And my hand raises because that's how I'm always getting involved with leadership. It's not like, oh yeah, I can't wait to be a blah blah blah, whatever that leadership is, whether it's church or any other thing that I'm involved with. I'm not looking to be a leader. I just want to be a silent observer, participant. You help me out, I'll help you out. Be the administrator. The stuff behind the scenes kind of stuff. I don't want to be the head person in charge. But here they needed a den leader. I raised my hand, and even the Cub Scout leader was like, "Really, you really want to do that? Because we can see you're getting ready to have a baby any minute. You're going to have some additional responsibilities." I'm like, "Well, ain't nobody else want to do it." Because I've done that at work too, and that's a whole nother story about work and job, and I think I'll talk about that later. But said, okay, I'll do it because nobody else want to do it. And I want my son in this program. And so I volunteered to be the Tiger Cub den leader. And then I had an assistant. Can't remember how she became one, but I think she just wanted other parents and decided to help me out. You know, but needed two people to do this because we have to have two deep leadership in scouting in any case. So we need another person. But I was a main person. The other person was better in crafts, so that was good because I needed somebody at crafts. I just don't be asking me how to do crafts. I'll just you give me the directions, I'll do it, but don't have me to teach it. So she was a craft person. I was the one that was in charge. And because they gave us that line or gave me that line, because I started it first, it only takes an hour a week. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard that phrase, it takes an hour a week for whatever thing that you're being pulled into, when it really isn't an hour a week. Okay, maybe the meeting was an hour a week, but the prep time to do the meeting and to whatever is way more than an hour a week. But, I fell for the line and I was in it. So my daughter, I told you, she was 9 months pregnant, was literally born into scouting. So from babyhood, from being a total infant, all that time she kept thinking about, oh, I'm going to be a Boy Scout, I'm going to be a Cub Scout or whatever, because she says I'm being a Girl Scout boy. She didn't even say nothing about girls, she's going to be a Boy Scout. I said, nope, you're not going to be a Girl Scout because a Boy Scout, because at that time they didn't have that. Now in girl and Boy Scouting, especially on the Boy Scout side, not so much on the Girl Scout side. Boy Scouts do have females in their entire program from the youngest age up, where in the time that we were doing it, girls were only allowed when they were older, like upper teenagers, college level age. But now it's a whole different story. And I always wondered if scouting had been like that, would she really have been a boy's Cub Scout, Boy Scout instead of a Girl Scout? Because why do it? Like I said, she was literally born into scouting because we dragged her everywhere. We took her to whatever meetings we went to, outings, because I had Tiger Cubs. So anytime we'd go on an outing, she was dragged along with us. So she was doing everything that the boys were doing and having a great time with it. So then eventually both of us, my husband and I, both got pulled into, not just because he actually got into scouting because he was preparing his son for the Boy Scout end of it, because we were in Cub Scouts, which is different than Boy Scouting. The Cub Scouts are younger kids, so they're younger kids. And then Boy Scouting is more into teenagers, because I don't really want to get into the breakdown of how they split. Just say the Cub Scouts are young men now, young men and women, and older young men and women. So his involvement, he wanted to know about the Boy Scout program. Like, what's that going to be like? Because he knew his son eventually was going to graduate from Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And he wanted to know what that was involved with, because I wasn't planning on doing Boy Scouts at that point. I'm like, I'm just sticking with this young man right now while he's younger and do what I need to do as a Cub Scout den leader. I'm not trying to get into the Boy Scout side because that's a whole nother animal. So he, in his quest to find out what that was all about, as a reluctant leader, found out they needed a Boy Scout scoutmaster for the troop. So he ended up being the scoutmaster. He was willing to go in as an assistant scoutmaster. In fact, that's what he originally went in as an assistant scoutmaster, but somehow he ended up being the scoutmaster because of the need. So he was scoutmaster of the Boy Scout troop, the older boys, and I was a den leader for a smaller part of the pack. And as for the den that my son is in. So that's where we were going. But eventually, somehow both of us, I don't know, I can't even think of how, probably because other people see what you do and then they say, well, you're a great volunteer. See if we can get you to do some more stuff. You know how that is. You have volunteers and only a few people volunteer. So next thing you know, they're doing more than what they went in for. And that's exactly what happened to us. So we both got pulled into district council and national kind of levels, which was even crazier because we went in for the kids. And next thing you know, we're doing other roles, either to help other troops become better troops, and this is on the Boy Scout side, or training, because we both got into training where we're helping other leaders, male and female, learn how to be Cub and Boy Scout leaders. So, because we did both of those together. And then on the national side, we also did an advanced training for the adults that are trying to get to elevate themselves or enrich their experience with scouting by learning more. So we taught at all the levels, district, council, national. We even went to a Philmont Scout camp, and as a family, the purpose for that trip was for my husband and I to get some more advanced training to help other people to learn how to be Boy Scout leaders. So at the same time, my daughter was there. Can't remember. I think she was 5 or 6. So while we were in these classes, because my husband and I took 2 different classes because he was in one thing and I was in another type of training. So while we're in those classes, she's in classes for not even classes. It's just like it's almost like a daycare, but not daycare, but it's kind of a little scouty where for her age group, they occupy them doing fun things for that age group. And then my son, who was a teenager, he was off with a whole nother group of kids, almost like a mini troop, where they went out and actually hiked in the Philmont Scout area, went up to the mountain and camped out there. And we didn't see him all week. He was gone for the week. Or my daughter, we saw her every day because she ate meals with us, breakfast and dinner, lunch with us while we were in and out of these classes. So we saw her all day where he was gone for the whole week. So somehow we got noticed out there by the powers that be. I don't know what it was all about because can't even tell you what was so special about us. It was just another family, like a whole bunch of other scout families. And because of that, they saw what we were doing on a district council, national levels, teaching, training, having kids, blah, 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 having our own troops still, working with other troops. So then our whole family of 4 got featured in their scouting magazine. So they came out, interviewed us, took us to places. They came to where we were training. Me and Dan, my husband was training somewhere. I can't remember because it was so long ago what the group was, but we were both training together at, but we were training some scouts leaders to be scout leaders, and they took pictures of us and took pictures of our family and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of cool being featured in the scouting magazine. So we had our little 15 minutes of fame in that scouting magazine. And because of all the training and all the things that we got into that had nothing to do with being with the kids, we got tons of awards for being these wonderful people. So we got tons of awards and plaques and all kind of stuff. So that was just how it rolled in scouting. And most of our time was spent that way. We didn't do too much of nothing else other than work because we both had to work jobs. So our weekends and some of our weekdays, that was our life in scouting. So then I was already planning, because remember, my daughter could not be a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout because she's a girl. So she had to go to Girl Scouts. So since I was so involved with the Boy Scouts, I planned ahead of time. I actually went to Girl Scouts of the USA, got myself enrolled as a leader, no troop yet, got trained and everything because I was doing all this up front because I already knew since I was a trainer on the Boy Scout side, I needed to get trained as a Girl Scout leader so that by the time my daughter got of age, which was 5 years old, to be a Girl Scout, that I'd be already ready to go, don't have to take any training, I'm already done, ready to roll with the troop. So when she got 5 years old, then we became a Girl Scout leader for the Daisy Girl Scouts, and this is their little uniform here, so cute. Can't imagine that she's probably like, wow, that thing, yep, you're a little tiny person. So we started a troop, can't even remember how many people were in that troop, maybe 5, 6, 7. It wasn't all that big, but they were all about 5 years old and we had a great time. And then the thing about the Girl Scouts, unlike the Boy Scouts, I was able to follow the girls all the way up until they were teenagers. So we just kept adding people or people come in and out. Because, when you have those kind of things, people come, they go, but then you have a core group of girls that continue from 5 years old all the way up to high school. And that's what my plan was to finish in 12th grade, everybody get their gold award, and then we'll be done and then move on. Even though for both Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, both my husband and I were planning on being lifer scouters, meaning people that are in the scouting program, their kids are gone, and now we're still dealing with other people's kids. I don't know what we were planning on doing because I know I wasn't planning on taking a whole bunch of new girls in because after I had those relationships from these girls from 5 all the way up to teenagers, I don't plan on starting all over again because I was at a whole different patient level at that point. I'm like, not trying to do that. But I was still planning on being a lifer, probably training because I was a trainer and I just like training adult leaders to be the best that they can be or train anybody to be the best they can be because I train and work and I was just one of those kind of people that trained all over the place, got paid for training or work, but this is volunteer. So being a volunteer trainer was really fun. And then also in the Girl Scouts, just like I did the Boy Scouts, I get pulled into council positions, like cookie teams and all kind of things that they're besides being a trainer, because of course I was training, I was looking for that because I love doing that. But I did a lot of council positions there, got lots of awards for that too. And our troop and my daughter get featured in 3 different Girl Scout leader magazines. My daughter was in one for they were talking about this great thing called the internet, and they got a picture of her checking her email. Now it's like no big deal, but back then it was when we first started. Wow, the internet, get this email electronically. So she had a picture of that, and then we had a picture of us in another magazine about our troop. We had a pen pal troop in Minnesota. It was the leader. I had met her at some function I did as a leader. We were at some council thing, and we decided, I want our troops be pen pals. So with the troop became pen pals and they talked to each other. And we actually met the troop there in Minnesota. We're in Cleveland. We decided to meet in the middle because it was too far to go to Minnesota. So we met in Chicago, a city that was bigger than both of our cities because, Cleveland is just a small country town. So we met in Chicago, which is a big town, and we got to meet there. And so they had pictures of us as a group meeting there and having this great time together in person after we've been writing together for probably a year or two. I don't remember how long it was, but for a while. So we were featured in that, and then it was something else, and I can't remember what the third one is. It's just kind of funny what you forget until you start looking through stuff. I said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about it. We were featured in these Girl Scout leader magazines. I'm always hyping up the Boy Scout magazine and forgetting that Girl Scouts had done the same kind of thing with us. And we had some crazy trips. Yeah, especially as Girl Scouts, we definitely had some crazy, crazy trips. Just something just popped in my head because one time we went to Savannah, Georgia, because that's where the Girl Scout founder or Girl Scouts was founded, where it started, Juliet Lowe. And so we went there to check that area out and go through the whole historical stuff of being a Girl Scout and how it happened, blah, blah, blah. So we took the Amtrak train to go there. And in that process, on the second train, that Amtrak train got derailed and we ended up literally being thrown off the train. Not actually being thrown out the train, but the fact is our trip ended early because of that derailment. And our troop became really famous on that trip because, we were a Girl Scout troop from Cleveland, down here in Savannah, Georgia, and was on featured in TV because we were just Girl Scout troop from Cleveland coming down to Savannah, Georgia. So that was an interesting kind of thing. We did a lot of stuff as Girl Scouts. I mean, we did the stuff that I wanted to do when I was a kid. We went camping, we went caving, we jumped on trains, we went out of town, we traveled here, we traveled there. And so we were all over the place doing all the things that I guess basically the things that I wanted to do when I was a youngster, was able to do it with these girls. And then these girls all got that kind of exposure. And they were never the type of girls that were ashamed to tell people they were Girl Scouts, because anybody that would kid them, they were like, well, what did you do this weekend? I've been over here. We went there. We flew over there. We trained over there. We was climbing in a cave. We would do blah, 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 blah. What you do? So they didn't have any problems. We'd be in parades with the Boy Scouts too. They didn't have a problem. So it was cool. Same thing. Girl Scouts gave me a lot of awards. So that was kind of cool. So then, but God came along and changed all that. Hubby, for personal reasons, decided to leave the Boy Scouts because the flavor of scouting was changing. So it was just one of them kind of things, because everything at the beginning, everything at the end. So he decided to leave, and then and they decided to leave, and somebody else had to do the troop. Me, on the other hand, I'm hired because I'm the one that's the fanatic more so than he is. God had to send 2 campus students to come and reel me in. Like, what are you doing? Come on, it's time for you to get off this party. Even though, because pretty soon the girls are going to be in 12th grade anyway. So, but you want to be this lifer. So what does that mean? What you going to do after they go? So sent 2 campus students to invite me to come out to church. I went to church, and then I realized, wow, I'm doing a little bit too much on this scouting. Because, like I said, my schedule was packed every weekend. I mean, it was a lot because we're doing so much training and stuff that didn't have anything to do with the reason why I got into Girl Scouting and the reason why we both got into Girl Scouting for the kids. I was out with adults, teaching them how to be leaders, or out at some other function where sometimes husband and I, what was that, were leaders for other, like in school scouting, not in school scouting, for other scouting groups that needed leaders to help them with. They would have us be the camp directors or like, oh, that's right, I was a camp director. I mean, I was a day camp director too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I said, it was a lot. Just too much to think about all the stuff that I used to do, business managers for Girl Scouts. And anyway, so it was doing a lot. And so he had to send these two campus students to get me to church so that I could say, oh man, I'm just doing way too much. I need to cut some of that back, which I did. I took a lot of those council positions and said, no, I can't do that anymore. I'm just going to stick with having a troop, and then I'll keep the training because I still like that. And it's a helpful thing. And you can, and I didn't think it was all that big of a deal just to keep those two things because, girls are only going to be with them maybe a couple more years. And then training, it's not that big of a deal. However, one day I was studying with the Bible with somebody, trying to show them with the Bible, with other friend, with another friend, like two of us was together talking with this female, showing her in the Bible what it means to be a Christian, what you should do and all this kind of stuff and what that really looks like. Because that's what we do. We study with people to show them this is what it's like to be a Christian. Now, do you want to be one? Okay, because you need to count the cost to find out why do you want to even be a Christian? You don't want to just join a church just to hang out and be social. But what does that mean? What does that look like? So we're studying the Bible, so on about that, so they can be aware of what the real commitment of being a Christian is. It's not just a social thing on Sunday and Wednesday or whenever you guys meet. So we're studying the Bible, and then was trying to schedule another date for her to go over some other topic the next week or whenever. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got a meeting that week. I got a roundtable that week. I got a Girl Scout meeting. Oh, I got a Boy Scout meeting. And this person just lit into me. She said, hold up, you just showed me the scripture about denying yourself, yet you can't deny yourself for me to study the Bible because you're so busy doing something else that has nothing to do with walking with God. So that like cut me right open. I said, oh my gosh, I need to stop this Girl Scouting and Girl Scouting thing altogether. So I might have still, I don't know if I was still doing Boy Scouting, might have been, I don't remember. I just know I was really doing Girl Scouting a lot then. So I decided to cut this turkey, cold turkey, because now I realize the scouting was an idol for me. Like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this for myself or whatever. I don't know, but I'm not doing it for God, because when I first started this, I didn't have a walk with God. So it's like, it's just one of the things of social, a thing you do to be a outstanding community person. And, it wasn't like I was thinking I was trying to earn my way into heaven because I wasn't even thinking that. I wasn't thinking about God at all. Just doing this thing because when my kids in here, this other stuff just got added in. So I gave it up totally cold turkey at that point, grabbed the troop, gave up the training, everything, which is a real heartbreaking thing at that time because the girls weren't completely finished. Some had got their gold award, some hadn't yet. So, but it had to be done. So it was just, I had to do it. Couldn't wait a couple more years. Needed to follow what God wanted me to do in spite of what was going on with the scouting. So I quit cold turkey. So the crazy part, I always think about no matter what I gave up, because I gave up that because it was something I really loved doing, something the girls really loved doing. But at the same time, God and Jesus gave up a whole lot more for me when he sent his son down here to die for me. So by giving up scouting, which was definitely turned into an idol, he gave up so much more. So that always makes me think about anybody else. When you're involved with something, I don't know what it is, whether it's something that you are doing with your kids, something that you personally like doing, the activities, whatever it is you like doing, you have to really think about, make sure that whatever that is, that God sent you there, that was God ordained. And then is that what he wants you to do? Is that where he wants you to be? And then if it is, then making sure that he still stays number one, as opposed to that thing flipping. You started out that way, he sent you there, but then it flipped, and all of a sudden now it becomes an idol. Like Scotty was calling for me, turned into me for me. So the scripture I'm thinking about, I just realized that the scripture here, but I did not put the where it came from. Anyway, it's in Mark, but I didn't write it down here. But it says, then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. So what good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul. Scriptures in Mark, and I'm like, darn it, I don't have it right here. I didn't put it on the PowerPoint sheet, but it's in Mark, people, look for it. Google it. No, don't Google it. Look in your Bible. So that's why I'm chuckling. I'm like, wow, I got this all prepped up and didn't put what the scripture was, but it's in Mark. So yeah. So yeah, thanks for coming again to hear about my craziness of being the fanatic and the idol worship fanatic and Girl Scouting and Boy Scouting, and how God pulled me out of there so that he can do something more with me besides having me going out to camps with people and teaching people and whatever, spending time away from family when the kids are like, man, I thought you got into scouting for me, and next I'm not even there because I'm out of town teaching some adults or whatever. So yeah, make sure you always keep God first. Don't let the activities make them your God. See you next week.